Let's bring in Lydia Miljan. She's a political analyst. She works at the University of Windsor. Hey, Lydia, good to see you. Thanks for your time today.
Hi, Todd.
Let's talk about this prime time address by Mark Carney tonight at 7 o'clock. We're being told this is crucial for him here. What's your takeaway? I know optics are often important in politics. There is a whole lot riding on his budget, concerns about how big the deficit might be. Still no deal with the Americans, Lydia.
Yes, he's got a big job ahead of him, and he really is trying to set the stage, trying to set our expectations. I mean, certainly there's a lot of economists out there that, including the parliamentary budget officer, that is saying, the deficit's going to be much greater than we expected, than we did even last year. But other private sector economists are suggesting it could be over $70 billion. And I remember just last year, and in fact, I was looking at the fall economic statement from 2024, and this blows past even their worst case scenario. So he's got a very different world that we're living in this year than we did last year, and also from when he was campaigning. So he's going to really try to set the agenda, try to set our expectations low. And I hope that he explains either this week or in the coming weeks how he's going to do two things at the same time, which seem contradictory, right? Spend more, invest more, spend less. So both an austerity and a spending budget with those deficit numbers. But I think he really wants to demonstrate that he's still in control, notwithstanding this week's horrible economic news of just announcements of layoffs after layoffs in the manufacturing sector.
Yeah, the car sector. A lot of worries in softwood lumber, still trying to see if there's any possible deal with steel and aluminum with the United States. We just talked about that story in Quebec with the heavy trucks and that company now laying off 300 jobs as well. Not a lot of good options here for Mark Carney, Lydia. I mean, we're to a certain extent, I know we hate to say this, but we're kind of at the mercy of the man in the White House right now.
To some extent, but at the same time, let's remember that Mark Carney promised us that he was going to be able to either deal with Donald Trump or help build the country from east to west, right? So there is a lot of pressure on him to get a deal with the United States, but notwithstanding that, he still made the promise that he was going to have interprovincial trade barriers go down. He was going to have big projects built. I assume that's what the announcement might be tonight, hinting at maybe more announcements regarding east-west trade, bigger projects that will help create jobs. I'm worried personally that, the budget's all going to be about supports. And it's great to have supports, but that creates a dependency economy, which we don't want. Canadians want to work. Canadians want to have a strong economic foundation, and he's really got to demonstrate how his plan is going to bring that to effect. And at the same time, we also have some inflation numbers yesterday that didn't look good either, right? Showing that food inflation is up, rental accommodation inflation is up, and so that is also putting concerns about recessionary pressures.
Yeah, I wonder, for Mark Carney's position here in terms of trying to win over Canadians and say, look, we're going to have to spend massively in this budget. We already know about national defense, but that aside, in other projects, in other areas to help different sectors in order to try and mitigate the damage of this trade war. Your read on whether Canadians are on board with that sort of thing, that in this moment of crisis, we need to spend in order to support some of these sectors, Lydia?
They might be in favor of it, but at the same time, eventually they're going to have to ask, where is this money going to come from? You can spend more today, but the bill's going to come due either through higher interest payments, which means it's going to reduce the government's ability to spend in the future, or it's going to have to be offset by some kind of taxes. He's already reduced the counter tariffs against the United States, so that's not a revenue resource anymore, which means, is he going to then impose taxes on the rich or increase things like capital gains that he took off the table or deal with the carbon taxes? At some point, he's got to either pay for this somehow, and it's either through deferred spending or through increased taxes. There just isn't any other way out of it. And so once you put it Canadians that way, they probably are less likely to approve of these increasing deficits. And I think that the credibility of the federal government is at stake because, again, last year's fiscal anchors and their deficit, which was astronomical anyway, nobody liked that. They've overshot that. At least it seems to be the case that they've overshot that. So it's just not sustainable in the long run. And I think Canadians are going to be concerned about how effective is this Prime Minister who basically said, I'm the guy for the times, I'm the former Bank of Governor chair. And so he's the one that should be able to manage this. And if he can't, then we're in big trouble.
Lydia Miljan joining us from Windsor with her take. Good to see you, Lydia. As always, thanks for taking time for CTV News.
Thanks, Todd.